Hello everyone, welcome back to Angela's Craft Room once again. Today I've got this card for you using the Daisy Delight stamp set. So I've also used the matching daisy punch. So the card we're going to make today, it will be slightly different to this because when you want to use the full size daisy that you punch out, you need to just use a little sentiment up here so that your two daisies can fit in. So with the card today, I've made a larger sentiment. So what I've done is I've still punched out the daisies and then I've just put them through my trimmer and just slit them in half. So we're going to do half daisies. So it's still the same technique, it's just we're using half daisies, and if you want to use full daisies, well, you just use full daisies. Okay, so it sort of gives you a couple of options that you can do. So this is a stamp set that I've been using. So this is the daisy here, and I'm also going to be using this stamp here, which will be the center of my flower. Okay, and then I've used the daisy punch to punch out my daisies, and then as I said, all I've done is just slit them straight down the middle there. And the same as the little bud, when I stamped that, I just cut it in half is all I did, because I'm going to do a half daisy. But when I stamped this one, the little bud, if you've got the 1/2 inch circle punch, it punches that out perfectly too. So we'll get started. So starting off, I'm going to have real red as my base on this card. So it's 11 inches long by 4 1/8 of an inch wide, and then I scored it at 5.5. And then I had a piece of Whisper White, which measures 5 1/4 inches by 3 7/8 of an inch. And then I used a piece of Springtime foils out of my stash, specialty paper. So that was also 5 1/4 inches long, and then I just cut it a piece 1 1/2 inches wide. So there's still plenty of room there to write on, and it just carries your DSP that I'm going to use on the front of the card right through to that inside the card. So then I'm going to put a mat of Early Espresso on it. Now that measures, let me just check, 5 3/8 by 4 inches. So we'll glue that on straight away. I'm hoping to do a video on making the daisy into a multi-layered ruffled flower too. I had a couple of ladies ask me about making your own flowers, and I've just got to work out how we're going to do it with the daisy, but I think the daisy will be a perfect one to do it for. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any of the videos. I publish 2 a week. So there we go. So one thing, once you go to my YouTube channel, if you click on playlists, I'll make a playlist and I'll call it Daisy Delight, and that'll have all the cards that I'm going to be making with the Daisy Delight stamp set, because I think it's just one of those stamp sets that I'm going to be using quite a bit of, just like my favourite Lovely as a Tree, as everyone knows. So then what we need to do, I've got a piece of DSP, you can just use whatever you want. This is springtime foils and it is retired. It's from my stash, so I'm just using up all my DSP I've got before I go purchasing any more. Now this starts off to be 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 inches, okay? So then what I do is I get my trimmer. So you've got it straight like that, and then I'm going to put that corner and this corner, line it up in the track, and it's a bit hard for me because I'm not looking over it. So make sure it's in the track and then just slice it down, and then you'll be left with this piece. So that is going to go on to your card perfectly like that. Okay. So then what we'll do is glue that down. It is nice specialty paper, but it's no good just sitting in my drawer. I've cut up all my DSP and put it in 6x6 cellophane packs, and I just want to use them up before I go buying more DSP. So you can use whatever DSP you've got on hand, but it's really made me start using up some of my DSP. So we just want that to take, so it's the good thing about Tombow, you can move it if it's not completely straight, but you've just got to give it those few minutes to dry. And I'm just going to grab a cotton bud because there's a little bit of glue coming out there and down there. So just making sure that's... So then what I've done is I've stamped on a piece of real red. This was from a very old stamp set I've got. But it's just a sentiment. My thoughts are happiest when you're in them, and I just really love that sentiment. And then I just used my circle punches to punch these out too. And then I just used the next size up in Early Espresso. And I'm just going to mat that on there. So you can see it's quite a big sentiment, so it takes up quite a lot of room. So that's why I've had to make half daisies on this card. So I'm just going to pop some dimensionals on the back here. So you're best to do your sentiment first when you're doing this layout, if you're going to do the DSP the way I've done it, because that way then you know how much room you've got left to apply your daisies. So okay, so then we're just going to pop that onto the piece of Early Espresso. So I think Real Red and Early Espresso go quite well together. And then I'm going to pop some dimensionals under there. That's probably just 4. And then we're just going to pop that on our card, and then we will create a half daisies to accompany the card. just the last one there. So then I'm just going to bring my card in, and I'm just going to pop that about there. Oops, just make sure it's straight. Circle punches always come in handy for punching out your sentiments like that. So that's what we've got so far. So now what I did was as you can see, I punched out a daisy and then I just cut it in half, and I did the same with the white. So what I did with the full daisies, and I'm just going to have to be a bit more careful because this petal here is very thin, but what I did was I just used my bone folder and curled them over like this. So the red is going to go on the bottom, so that's why we're curling it under. So I'm not going to do too much with those thin ones. Just curl those ones under, and the same with the other one because we're going to fit 2 half daisies instead of. So if I was putting the full daisy on, I would just do this for the whole daisy and I wouldn't have slit it down the middle. That's the only difference. So that gives you a couple of ideas how to use this stamp set. So then I'm going to bring my card back in, and I want to see where I want to place the bottom part of my daisies. Like that. So what I'm going to do is, with this one, I'm just going to glue a little bit of glue down there, across there, and just down on the petals a little bit. So you can see I'm not applying that much glue, and I just don't want that to ooze out, so just as long as it's still quite tacky. Like that. So I'm just holding the center petal and I'm just going to line it up on my DSP. Oops, I thought something's wrong there. I had it round the wrong way. So I'm just trying to have it right on the edge there. And you can see why, because I had such a big sentiment, I couldn't put my daisy right over. So I'm going to do the same on this one. Then exactly the same, just try not to drop it, and I'm just going to put it down here. I did overlap the other daisies on the card when I did the full daisy. It's given me the chance to show you two different ways. So just depending on how large your sentiment is up there, if you're going to use or try to do this sort of layout. Okay, just stick those ones down. So that's the bottom part, and then we've got two white ones which are going to go on top. So with the white ones, with the red ones we curled under, these ones we're going to curl upwards, okay? So they sit off the card a little bit. That, and then I'm just going to put the glue in the center there where the bud would be, because I really want those petals to sit up on the top layer, whereas I glued them all down on the first layer, the red layer, but these ones I want them to sit up. The only thing with these, you can't rotate them because they're half. You can't rotate them like I did with the original card, like how I had the white going in between the black with the half, when you do a half daisy, but you can still see the red underneath there. Okay, and then to finish that off, as I said, I stamped the bud and cut it out with my 1/2 inch circle, and I've got some mini dimensionals, so I hardly ever use these, but I thought they'd be the ideal size for underneath that half a bud. So I'm just going to put put a mini dimensional under there. So I'll just grab my scissors, just trimming off that little bit of dimensional that I can see from the front view. So then I'm just going to put that half bud on there like that. So then once again with this one, we're going to just curl it up. Oops. Now with this one, I'm going to put a dimensional underneath it instead of gluing it down, so it sits a little bit higher than the other daisy. So I might use the mini dimensionals and just put a couple under there. If you don't have them, you can use the bigger ones. You'll just have to cut them. In half or something like that, so that they fit. So I'm just going to push that right next to that one, like that. And then all I'm going to do is, so I can just see that a little bit of that dimensional. That's better. So I'm just going to line that up, and it's going to sit a bit higher than the other daisy. and just encourage the petals to come up a little bit. And then we've got one more half bud to pop into the center of that. So I'm just going to put one there. So I'm just going to trim a little bit of that off. So then we're just going to pop that down on the other daisy. Just press that down. And as you're pressing it down, it brings the outer petals up anyway, so that helps with all that as well. Pop the glue back, and then you've got your lovely half daisy one. And another thing you could do, you could actually emboss this early espresso piece before gluing it down if you wanted to. So my original one was, I still used the same DSP there. And I'll tell you the truth, what happened, why I've got that across there like that was because I dropped my ink pad on the DSP and I thought, oh, how am I going to fix this? So I just made a thank you across it, so I didn't have to start it all over again. But if you were doing this card, if I do it again, I would just have it one piece down there like on this one, and just have your big daisies. But as I said, you just have to have a small sentiment up here, and these little flowers are from the Daisy Delight stamp set as well. So it's quite a versatile stamp set, and that's the one we did today, like doing the half daisies. So I hope you enjoyed that video today. And thank you for subscribing to my channel, and until next time, happy crafting!